Good day, everyone. I am Clarice Kate D. Flores from BS Ed Mathematics. For today's discussion, I will discuss about the ethnocentrism and relativism. What is ethnocentrism? Ethnocentrism is the judging another culture solely by the values and standards of one's own culture. Ethnocentrism, individuals judge other groups relative to their own ethnic group or culture, especially with concern for language, behaviors, customs, and religions. Ethnocentrism also defined as an evaluation of other cultures according to the perception originating in the standards and customs of one's own culture. Example for this is that in the culture of Asian cultures, across all the countries of Asia, the way of eating is to use chopsticks with every meal. These people may find it necessary to find that people in other societies, such as the American society, eat using forks, spoon, knives, and etc. Define each culture, ethnicity, unique cultural identify. Cultural identities includes a broad set of identity constructs related to demographic subgroups such as ethnicity, gender, race, sexual orientation, and social economic status. According to William G. Sumner, ethnocentrism is defined as the technical name for the view of things in which one's own group is the center of everything. It also characterized pride, vanity, beliefs of one's group or one's own group's superiority, contempt of outsider. In the study of anthropology, people born in particular culture that grew up absorbing the culture will develop a worldwide that considers their culture to be the norm. It also, anthropology is the study of people, their origins, development, and contemporary variations, wherever and whenever they have been found. Example of ethnocentrism in religionetic is that religious discrimination, confusionalism, theocracy, school prayer, separation of church and state. Cultural relativism is the principle that an individual person's belief and activities should be understood by others in terms of that individual's own culture. It also refers to not judging a culture to our own standards of what is right or wrong, strange or normal. Instead, should try to understand cultural practice of other groups in its own cultural context. In the study of anthropology, there are now four major fields of anthropology. The first one is biological, the second one is the anthropology cultural, the third is the linguistic, and lastly is the anthropology. If people then experience other cultures that have different values and normal behaviors, they will find that the thought patterns appropriate to their birth culture are not appropriate for the new cultures. However, since people are accustomed to their birth culture, it can be difficult for them to see the behaviors of people from a different culture from the viewpoint of that culture rather than from their own. Cultural relativism. It was established as accepted in anthropological research by Franz Boas in the first few decades of the 20th century and later popularized by his students. Cultural relativism was in part an response to Western ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism may take obvious forms in which one consciously believes that one's people arts are the most beautiful values, the most virtuous, and believes the most truthful. Boas first articulated the idea in 1887. Civilization is not something absolute, but is relative. Our ideas, conceptions are true only so far as our civilization goes. However, Boas did not coin the term. Franz Boas, originally trained in physics and geography, argued that one's cultures may mediate, thus limit one's perceptions in less obvious ways. He's understood culture to include not only certain tasted in food, arts, and music or beliefs about religion. He assumed most or much broader nation of culture. The totality of the mentality and physical reactions, activities that characterize the behaviors of the individuals, composing a social group collectively and individually in relation to their natural environment, to other groups, to members of the groups itself. This understanding of culture confirms anthropologists. The two problems anthropologists. The first is that how to escape the unconscious bounds of one's own culture, which inevitably bias our perceptions of and reactions to the world. Second, how to make sense of an unfamiliar culture. Generalization. Ethnocentrism, the tendency to assume that one's own culture and way of life represents the norms or are superior to all others. Cultural relativism, the viewing of people's behaviors from the perspective of their own culture. So, that's all for today's discussion. I hope you understand my topic and thank you for listening. Have a nice day and keep safe always.